Live from Washington, this is BBC News. Like Armageddon, more than 100,000 people in Los Angeles flee the most destructive wildfire in its history. We're on the ground live with the latest. And the world says goodbye to former President Jimmy Carter. We'll bring you to the funeral live. Hello, I'm Sumi Somaskanda. And I'm Caitriona Perry. Welcome to this special programme broadcast live from Washington, D.C. as the world prepares to bid a final farewell to former President Jimmy Carter. These are live pictures from the Capitol, where President Carter has been lying in state. We'll take you live to the funeral later this morning. It's set to be a historic occasion with all of the living and past presidents in attendance. But first, we're monitoring another major story here in the U.S. Some of the most iconic landmarks in Hollywood are at risk as the most destructive wildfires in the history of Los Angeles continue to rage, forcing tens of thousands of residents to flee their homes and killing at least 5 people. There are now 6 separate blazes across Greater Los Angeles. This is the moment a house in Studio City in the Hollywood Hills collapsed. You can see the flames there completely engulfing the structure as it falls. But of course, as we're keeping an eye on the situation in California, we're also watching out for those final moments of Jimmy Carter lying in state at the US Capitol before the world prepares to say its final goodbye to him, when he will move a little later to the National Cathedral for that final service. This is the scene here at the National Cathedral, the Guard of Honor formed there for him. Jimmy Carter, of course, a peanut farmer from Plains, Georgia, who rose to become the 39th President of the United States, winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, and a champion for human rights. Mr. Carter passed away last month at the age of 100. And we're seeing that procession as it continues to travel. Jill, thank you so much for sharing your stories, your perspective with us today. We really appreciate it. And our condolences, of course, as well.
Thank you. Thank you. He is a loss to the world. Indeed.
And we'll continue to keep an eye on that. We do, in the meantime, however, want to return to the other major story that we're covering today, the wildfires in Los Angeles. Yeah, let's check in on that now, and we can have a look at the scenes in and around Los Angeles, where the authorities have been battling 5 major wildfires. These are some of the latest images coming to us from Los Angeles. Just in the last few hours, while we have been covering there President Carter's funeral, officials in Los Angeles have been holding a news briefing describing the main fire in Palisades as one of the most destructive natural disasters in LA's history, and that fire remains uncontained. All right, Adam Weiss, thank you very much for joining us today on this day as Jimmy Carter is honored in the funeral service. We very much appreciate your time today. Now, before we
Thank you so much.
Before we go, a reminder of our other top story, those devastating wildfires we've been keeping an eye on in and around Los Angeles. The authorities battling now 5 separate major wildfires there. Officials held a news briefing in the last couple of hours describing the main Palisades fire as one of the most destructive natural disasters in LA's history. That Palisades fire remains uncontained. There's been no update on the number of fatalities. Nearly 200,000 people now under evacuation orders. There have been some successes. Some of the smaller fires have been brought under control, but whole blocks, streets have been scorched or destroyed. Fast-moving flames fanned by powerful winds have leveled more than 2,000 structures, many of them multi-million-dollar homes. Now we're just looking at some images of day breaking there in California. Of course, dawn a little earlier, and the hills around Los Angeles. And we will keep an eye on that story here on BBC News, and you can always stay tuned on our website as well. Thanks for watching.
Hello. We're coming into the last few days of our current